I even argue with it myself. And I was like, I know this is right down the road. I don't know why it having me going way across town. I don't know why it having me going this way. I still know I can go this way. But what we don't realize is our GPS runs off a global system that is up in the sky. And therefore, it can see things that we can't see that's ahead of us, that's around the curve, that's down the way. We know the way, but we don't know, Sister Kim, that it's a wreck down the road. They already know the road's blocked. They already know that you got to make turns here. So therefore, it redirects you. And this is just God. It's the same way. God is like a GPS navigation system. He knows the best route for our lives and in all ways is willing to guide us. But that's what the songwriter had in mind when they said, guide me, O thou great Jehovah. Lead me through this barren land here. But what I like about God is he never stops trying to reroute us on the right direction. You notice I said your navigation system, after a few times, it lets you go on the route that you're trying to go. But God never gives up on us. He will sometime reroute our lives to get us to our ultimate destination. And even though sometimes God will let us go the way that we think we need to go, but I'm a living witness this morning that when you come off of God's plan, when you come off of God's direction, when you get off of the direction he has you going, you always going to end up having a wreck. You always going to end up making a mess. Come on, I'm not by myself. You always going to end up in a situation that you shouldn't have been in, that you didn't think you should be in. But if we'd have just have followed the plan that God had given us, we will find ourselves on a better direction here. We will find ourselves on a better path. But we can trust that God has a purpose and a plan for us, and he will lead us on the path that will fulfill our lives. There are many reasons why God might reroute our lives. Sometimes it's because we are headed in the wrong direction. Other times, he wants to teach us something to protect us from harm. And sometimes, God even reroute our lives to use us to accomplish his purpose in the world. After COVID-19, after the pandemic, many people had their lives rerouted. We had things, even in the church today, things were rerouted. Why? Because one, we found that we were doing a lot of things that we didn't need to be doing. We were going ways that we shouldn't have been going. But son, God here, he rerouted things, not just in this church, but in many churches to where he can get us back on the right path. Because whether you believe it or not, a lot of churches have bought the world in the church. And now God said that since they bought the world in the church, I need to reroute you so that you can get back on the right path. You ain't got to say that. I'm just talking about here, not just here, but maybe your cousin church. You know where everything done went black. They got all the blue, the purple, the yellow lights. I didn't know if I was at a stage play or I didn't know if I was at the house of the Lord. Because if I'm not confused, for the Bible says that he is the light of the world. So therefore, why are we sitting in his house in the dark? And even though I know we were just in the dark, but it wasn't because of God. It was because of the power. But when God shows up, God will redirect our lives. I remember looking at the story in 2023. The tornado that hit in Rolling Fork, Mississippi, also showed how God can reroute our lives. The tornado caused extensive damage in the town and displaced many people. But however, in the midst of the devastation, there were also stories of hope and reliance. For example, the tornado completely destroyed one church, but the congregation came together to rebuild the church. I just saw on the news the other day to where a husband and a wife was retiring from the Salvation Army. And they was talking about how all the work that they have done and how they have helped many people and how they have seen their lives been damaged and have been destroyed and have been rerouted and rooted up in because of storms, and how they like to go back and see how things have been redirected and how things have been redone. But what I like about what they said was here, even though that it seems that we have destruction here on the world, he said, but God always works out a plan. Whether you realize it or not, here, God always has a plan for our lives here. And what I like about this here, when I look at this, the book of Deuteronomy here is essentially a series of divine here inspired the promise. It's divine inspired the promise to the promised land. Moses reminded the Israelites of God's faithfulness to them throughout their journey, urging them to obey his commandment. And once they entered into the land here, we see Moses here recounted the Israelites' journey through the wilderness. They warned of for many years that they had recently come to Mount Seir, located in the Edomite territory. The Edomites were descendants of Esau, and there was a long-standing animosity between them and the Israelites. As a result, God commanded the Israelites to pass through the land of Edom instead of going right through it, because if you look at verse 2, he changed their direction and rerouted them. This was likely kind of difficult for them. Maybe difficult, maybe frustrating for them to follow his command. They had been wandering in the wilderness for so long and were probably eager to enter into the promised land. But however, God had purpose in their rerouting by avoiding Edom. He protected the Israelites from harm and guided them toward the land that he had promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When you look in verse 3, the text tells us of God's faithfulness to his people and sovereignty over their journey, even when the Israelites were unsure of their directions. And I know I'm not by myself. Sometimes God will talk to you, and God will tell you to do some things, and you'll even question God yourself. You question God and you're asking, are you sure this is what I'm supposed to be doing? Are you sure this is the way I'm supposed to be going? And sometimes we'll still, Sister Francis, want to do it on our own instead of going the way that God has us to go. And we sometimes be afraid because we don't want to step out on faith. We talk about faith. We believe in faith. But sometimes it's hard for us to step out on faith. And I'm a true believer that if God gives you direction, God will make a way somehow. Well, let's talk about God's route. First, when we make a wrong turn, God will reroute us. The GPS has a particular quirk, and if it accepts a direction, it makes many attempts to put us back on the set path if we make a wrong turn. Here, the GPS says nothing if we acknowledge God and ask him to direct our path. He works like the GPS. He warns us that we are traveling down the wrong way. He puts that warning on the lips of family members. He puts that in the text message here of the sermons that are delivered on Sunday morning. He puts that warning in your family members that speaks to you. He puts that warning on that person that you inspire, on that person that you have faith, and that person that you have confidence. But yet sometimes we still ignore the warning. GPS only reroutes those with a destination. Those without a specified destination cannot be rerouted. Let me say that again. GPS reroutes those with a destination. And those without a specific destination cannot be rerouted. Those who are trying to get to heaven can be rerouted. And even those who are bent on going to hell can be rerouted to the nearest hellhole. But however, millions have no destination. Their lives are pointless without a final goal. They cannot be directed if they don't have any directions. GPS systems allows us to determine the type of roads that we want to travel. We decide only interstate highways, or we choose the byways and the back roads. And each choice has a different reason, and each choice has a different terrain. Each choice has a different path, whether it's smooth or whether it's rough. But however, if we miss multiple turns, we won't be lost. It's simply because we use our current directions. New paths sometimes get in our directions. And when we get on a new path, God does us the same way. We miss many turns over or even change our mind about the type of journey that we want. It doesn't matter if we keep the cross in front of us. He will map a path that will get us safely from here to there. I need you to understand this morning, I need you to keep trusting him. Don't give up. And if you fail, try again. He will direct your path. He will not leave you alone. Two, I need you to understand, God rerouted them to protect them. God instructed Moses to change Israel's direction. They didn't know, but God knew. The change was designed to protect them from unseen danger. So sometimes we ask ourselves, God, why do you have us doing this? God, why do you have us going this way? God, why we have to go this? But what you fail to realize, God sees something down the road. He sees over the here. He sees around the curve. God sees unseen danger. I don't know if you were looking at the news the other day, but right before New Year's Eve, there was an accident in Pelham to where a homeless man that was hit and he was killed. This homeless man, every day around 2 or 3, he would be right there up under the interstate, right there, probably about 75 yards from where I work at. And sometimes I would come through there. Sister McKinney, he may be exercising, he may be stretching. I don't know why, but right there, that intersection is where he liked to do his exercise. But he would be there, he would be on his bike, he had everything there, always spoke. Didn't know if he knew you or not. He would just wave his hand. He would just speak. He would just wave and hear. And what I come to realize is that one of my coworkers said that he was on his way to work. And right there where the young man got hit, he said that was the spot that where he would have been crossing. It was foggy that day. It was you couldn't hardly see in front of you. He said, but for whatever reason, he said, now I understand why Lord let me sleep a little later. He said, because that could have easily been me that had hit that young man. But he said, but God held me up and I was late and I came through afterwards. And what all I'm saying is sometimes God will stop things. Sometimes God will delay things to keep you from danger. You didn't see the danger, you didn't understand, and you didn't know, but yet you're in a hurry. You want that blessing. Yet you're in a hurry. You want that house. Yet you're in a hurry. You want that car. But God put a delay. He didn't deny. He just delayed. He said, because I knew down the road you was going to lose your job. I knew down the road things wasn't going to work out. I knew down the road things were going to be a little bad. So God said, I'm going to delay your blessing. Today, we often encounter reroutes. We often encounter unexpected changes. We often encounter challenges that might initially seem arbitrary or frustrated, but just as the Israelites, these changes are often divine protection from the danger or the hardship that we cannot foresee. We do whatever God tells us to do, even if we don't understand. And as we follow God, we must remain faithful. And if not, we may cause more harm than good. In the wilderness, the Israelites often slacked from godliness, and God confused their direction. And what should have taken a more 11 days extended to 40 days. And when God reroutes us, we go through unplanned and uncharted areas. It's important to keep trusting him to give us a divine path that will keep us in his protection and get us where we're trying to go. 3, I need you to understand, God protects us to bring us to a better place. God told Israel, you have been going round and around long enough. He rerouted them northward to get them to a better place. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see the meaning of that passage for our Christian journey, especially those of us who have been making time going around in circles. In our personal, our spiritual pursuit, many of us often find ourselves circling in the same mountains and challenges and doubts and fears day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. We keep going in circles. But however, God can reroute you. The Israelites' journey in the wilderness was filled with trials and errors. The faith wavered and they repeatedly questioned the purpose of their journey. The mountain was physically present, but they also represented that their past mistakes, inabilities to let go, and the lack of trusting in God's promise. Do that sound like some things today? We don't want to let some things go. We don't want to reroute. We don't want to change directions. But in order for us to move, God said we've been here long enough. We got to trust in the Lord. Like Israel, we often get stuck in